Stop fighting. Make it easy.
To make any kind of sense of it, I need to go back 3 years. Back to the night the pain started.
Max Payne is one of the most influential and important third-person shooters ever made. It took the simple premise of shooting bad guys over the shoulder and turned it into something completely unique that games have been mimicking for years ever since its release. And that's not to say those games are bad, but they're just not Max Payne. Max Payne was developed by a small indie team called Remedy. They had seen slight success in the past with their first game called Death Rally, but they were still relatively unknown. But that was all about to change. Max Payne, originally Heat, and prior to that Dick Justice, was a third-person shooter game that would take heavy inspiration from pulp noir films and John Woo style action. Written by Sam Lake, who was the man that the title character would be designed after.
Birthdays are like regrets. They just keep coming. Each one a new scar that slows you down and drags you closer to your grave.
Max Payne follows a DEA agent named Max Payne, obviously, who witnesses the brutal murders of both his wife and daughter by the hands of a bunch of junkies. Overwhelmed with agony and a sense of revenge, Max targets the mafia family responsible for distributing the drug known as Valkyrie, which the murderers were apparently on. As Max sets up a meeting with his friend Alex, he stumbles across the heist being performed by the same mafia family he's hunting. During the chaos, Alex is killed by an unknown assassin and the murder is pinned on Max, who now has to survive the night with the mafia and the police hunting him down, all in hopes of getting his revenge. If that doesn't sound like a good setup, I don't know what to tell you. Max Payne is basically thrown into a situation that starts out bad and gets progressively worse and worse. But it's a goddamn blast for the player, and that's what I'm here to talk about today. I believe that Max Payne changed the landscape for third-person shooter games, and I don't say that lightly. Max Payne was held in high regards as one of the best shooters of its time, and it's still seen that way to this day due to its trademark action. With the influence of John Woo films and the recent popularity of The Matrix, bringing bullet time-based combat to the world of video games was a no-brainer. The devs pursued this mission through a few different routes. They originally experimented with the idea of slow motion kicking in whenever you entered a room with enemies in it, to create these insane and intense visual moments. But they soon found that this was more of a hindrance than anything else, so they started experimenting with a new idea, an idea that would go on to be a major game changer. Bullet time would be activated by pressing L2 or the L1 button, which would launch the player in any direction that the joystick was pushed. This is the primary mechanic that the game was built around. As in Max Payne, you can't take cover or aim down the sights of your weapons, and the accuracy of your guns is not great, which encourages the player to get up close and personal with their enemies. This makes the action feel intense and more moment to moment, as the levels are usually pretty narrow, throwing you directly into the oncoming fire of several different enemies. The game has a bit of a challenge, sure, but with your skill set you never feel at a disadvantage. You never feel too overpowered either, as a lot of your progress can be undone very quickly.
Fuck off, man! I ran so far away from that!
Max is a very fleshy protagonist who takes damage very easily. You heal by munching on painkillers and slowly pushing Max closer and closer to the ledge every single time. Of course, one would probably need painkillers after tossing themselves around like that, good lord. Throughout the game, Max's inventory will fill with several weapons. You start out with just a pistol and a lead pipe for bashing skulls and taking names, but eventually that one pistol turns into two, and that turns into a Desert Eagle, and that turns into a shotgun, and that turns into an SMG and dual SMGs, and point is there's a lot. There is nothing that dictates how you dispatch your many enemies besides the amount of ammo you have left in your gun, and it's not like you'll be hurting for ammo in this game. This one game contains more bullets and ammunition than the entire state of Texas. The game isn't hesitant to give you lots of tools for mayhem, and also encourages the player to use those tools in a variety of interesting ways. Another thing that makes this game so effective is the beautiful and haunting atmosphere and the art style that the game presents. The story is presented through these amazing comic panels, which is a creative choice but was also due to the console limitations at the time. We get to see Max's painful story unfold in these visually stimulating panels that are often drenched in snow in the darkness of the night sky. This design is now iconic and would only improve in the sequel. Now, whilst the game's graphics are definitely dated, it's still easy to get immersed in the snow-filled wonderland that is New York. The game balances out its gritty and dark apartment setting with these peaceful modes of the city thrown in between. We also get crazy things like an underground sex club and a fucking cult headquarters. I couldn't make this shit up if I wanted to. In my opinion, all these come together perfectly to create a lively city that feels real. You also get variety in the levels, such as the trippy nightmare segments which feel like they belong in Silent Hill, or the mission where your weapons are taken away and the only thing you have is a bat that was literally used to beat Max moments prior to that.
Take me for example. I love to watch cartoons. Cartoon violence is a fascinating thing.
Also, the way Max just stumbles into most of the shit is hilarious to me. In fact, this dude's life is so tragic it's almost funny. So after witnessing his family get murdered one by one and almost getting murdered for the entirety of a night, one would hope Max gets his revenge, and he does. He very much does. Max confronts the head distributor of Valkyrie, who is also responsible for the murder of his wife.
All this because your wife stuck her nose into things that were none of her business.
The cops were coming to take me away. The sirens were like a bad conscience I couldn't shake.
It's ridiculous you've made it this far. You won't be alive when they get here.
And what follows is this insane mission where you have to fight through several floors of heavily armed bodyguards before confronting the woman on the roof. She attempts to escape, but Max hasn't come this far for nothing. After killing the woman responsible for the murder of his family, Max stares down at the carnage with a smile on his face, knowing his mission was finally complete. Max Payne is one of my favorite shooters of all time and easily one of my favorite experiences in gaming. It provides such a unique and well-crafted combat system that will forever be iconic. It was the first of its kind and gave way to a lot of other games using the bullet time feature, but none of them are Max Payne. None of them will be as smooth and as satisfying as this 21-year-old game is. And while the series would take a turn with later installments, which I'll be talking about soon, this game will always stand alone as one of the best. Now, I never played Max Payne 2, and I'm sure it's good and all, but even if I did, I doubt it would be as close to my heart as the first game. I love Max Payne. Hopefully this video helped you understand why, and hopefully I was able to convince some of you that Max Payne changed third-person shooters forever.
I released my finger from the trigger, and then it was over.